We begin with the coronavirus situation in Japan. Infections continue to spread despite a state of emergency that's in effect in Tokyo, Osaka, and 4 other prefectures. Officials in the capital reported 1,010 cases on Thursday. It's the 4th time this month the daily tally has hit quadruple digits there. The northernmost prefecture of Hokkaido confirmed a record 712 infections. That's an increase of nearly 200 from Wednesday's total. More infectious variants are being blamed for the surge. Researchers at Japan's National Institute of Infectious Diseases say variants carrying the N501Y mutation likely account for about 90% of new cases across the country. The institute also analyzed more than 200,000 cases and found that people infected with the variants may be 40% more likely to develop serious symptoms compared to the original strain. Among those aged 40 to 64, the risk may be 66% higher. The researchers caution that it's hard to accurately assess the risk posed by variants versus older strains because of a scarcity of data. But they say antivirus measures and medical treatments should be based on the assumption that the variants put patients at greater risk. Experts monitoring the situation in Tokyo echoed that warning.
The fact that mutant strains are making younger patients more seriously ill is troubling.
As of Wednesday, more than 60% of serious cases in the capital involved people under age 70. In western Japan, a man in his 20s was found dead at his home in Kyoto. He wasn't hospitalized after testing positive for the coronavirus because his symptoms were mild. He did not have any pre-existing conditions and had been consulting a doctor by telephone. More than 6,800 new infections were reported across the country on Thursday and 101 deaths. 8 prefectures are currently designated as areas where strict virus measures should be imposed without a state of emergency declaration. The government plans to add 5 prefectures on Sunday. A union representing Japan's doctors has called on the government to cancel this summer's Olympic Games due to the ongoing pandemic.
It's a tough story for athletes, but someone has to say that the Games need to be canceled. We think medical workers are required to speak up. That's why we made the request.
The doctors' union says even without any spectators, the risk of infection spreading are undeniable, as tens of thousands of athletes, coaches, officials, and media will come to Japan from around the world. It says Japan's medical workers are already working long hours in the fight against the coronavirus. It says holding the games could cause regional medical systems to collapse, and that asking medical workers to volunteer for them would be irresponsible. At an upper house committee on Thursday, the head of the government's advisory panel, Omi Shigeru, said he was not in the position to decide whether the games should go ahead.
Evaluating the burden the Olympics will have on the country's medical system will be crucial in deciding whether the event should be held as scheduled.
Japan's Prime Minister Suga Yoshihide has reiterated that he's determined to hold the Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics this summer as planned. Prime Minister Suga has reportedly held talks with South Korea's intelligence chief in Tokyo. The meeting on Wednesday came at a time when ties between the two countries remain chilled over issues that include wartime labor and those referred to as comfort women. Sources say South Korea's National Intelligence Service Director Park Ji-won conveyed his view that efforts should be made to improve bilateral relations. He reportedly expressed hope that the Tokyo Olympic and Paralympic Games will be a success and suggested that Suga and South Korean President Moon Jae-in hold a summit. Park also met Japan's Director of Cabinet Intelligence Takizawa Hiroaki and the U.S. Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines. Violence between Israelis and Palestinians is continuing to escalate, with each side standing firm against the other. The Israeli military has kept up its bombardment of the Gaza Strip. Officials there say at least 83 people are dead, including 17 children. More than 480 are injured. Meanwhile, Hamas has released a video showing what it says are rocket launches, signaling its intention to continue its attacks on Israeli territory. The Islamic fundamentalist group effectively controls Gaza. Israel says Hamas has launched more than 1,500 rockets over the last 3 days, killing 7 people and injuring more than 200. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has ruled out the possibility of a ceasefire. The United Nations is calling on officials from the European Union, the United States, and Russia to hold talks.
We are totally committed to promote all forms of dialogue by the parties and by other key actors that can be supportive of all démarches necessary for de-escalation.
But there are concerns more clashes are possible this weekend. On Friday, Muslims will hold a special prayer service as the holy month of Ramadan winds down. On Saturday, many will commemorate the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians in 1948. There have been signs that the conflict in Myanmar between anti-coup protesters and the military may be changing, with some demonstrators reportedly taking up arms in recent days. People in the city of Mandalay and other parts of the country took to the streets on Wednesday. Many flashed the three-finger salute that's become a show of civil disobedience. Some opposed to the military and its February coup have reportedly begun training with the armed forces of minority ethnic groups. Local media outlets report that people armed with guns clashed with security forces in the Sagaing region near the border with India on Tuesday and Wednesday. They say at least 15 security force personnel and 1 civilian were killed. In a separate development, staffers at the Japanese embassy in Myanmar say they've been able to speak by phone with a Japanese journalist detained by the military. Kitazumi Yuki reportedly said he has received decent treatment and has no health problems. The embassy will continue to demand Kitazumi's release, arguing that his detention is unjustified. Muslim leaders from China's Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region have questioned Western allegations that the Chinese authorities violate human rights. They said they have religious freedom. The Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region's local government held an event in Beijing on Thursday at the end of the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. A religious leader from the region's capital said China respects Muslim customs and described foreign comments about persecution of Muslims as nonsense. The event also included videos of local people praying at mosques and going about their lives during Ramadan. On Wednesday, the UN ambassadors of the U.S., Britain, and 16 other European countries gathered with representatives of Amnesty International to discuss the situation facing Uyghur Muslims and other minorities. The U.S. ambassador said her country will continue to join with other members of the international community in urging China to stop human rights violations.
We will keep working in concert with our allies and our partners until China's government respect the universal human rights of all its people.
The daughter of Uyghur academic Ilham Tohti told attendees about her father, who's imprisoned in China.
The fate of my father and my community is in the world's hands now. We all need to join together and take action to stop this humanitarian crisis from continuing.
China's mission to the UN urged member nations not to take part in the meeting. It said in a statement that the meeting was an attempt to use Xinjiang as a political tool to contain China. The pace of coronavirus infections in India shows no signs of slowing. New cases nationwide topped 362,000 on Thursday, with more than 4,100 confirmed deaths for a second straight day. The surge is pressuring the country's medical system to the point of collapse. Local media are reporting daily on the chaotic situation in which many patients have died in hospitals or even in ambulances due to a lack of beds and oxygen supplies. Aid supplies such as medical oxygen started arriving in the capital, New Delhi, in the pre-dawn hours Thursday from countries including Indonesia and Germany. A lockdown has been in place in most Indian states as infections spread from cities to the countryside where medical systems are more vulnerable. The outlook remains uncertain, although some professionals expect the infections to peak as early as this month. NHK has learned that Japan will open a free testing site for its nationals near New Delhi as early as next week. The move comes as the country now requires all arrivals to submit a confirmed negative COVID-19 test. Japan's border controls will be tightened further on Friday, banning the entry of foreigners who have visited India, Pakistan, or Nepal during the past 2 weeks. It's time now for a check on world weather. A massive wall of sand approached an oasis city of western China, causing low visibility. Our meteorologist Sakamori has the details.
Hello there. Sandstorms are a seasonal phenomenon for spring in China, and this year, China has seen the storms more than usual. Take a look at this scary scene coming out of the west of the country. A strong sandstorm hit the northwestern parts of China Tuesday, bringing visibility down to around 100 meters. The powerful winds swept through the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, creating a sand wall reaching 100 meters high. Authorities issued an orange alert, telling residents to stay indoors until the storm passed. The weather improved in the area on Wednesday. The opposite side of China is seeing days of heavy rainfall because of a stationary frontal system. We've got nearly 150 millimeters rain in parts of the country. Flooding and landslides have been reported in the area. The same frontal system is bringing heavy rainfall to Japan as well. Hachijojima had seen more than 110 millimeters of rain in a span of 12 hours. That's almost 50% of its monthly rainfall for May. Now, the seasonal frontal system will continue to hit the south of China and also parts of western Japan, including Kyushu, which entered the rainy season earlier this week. So heavy rain could lead to flooding as well as landslides. But it's a different story for Tokyo. Sunny and hot weather is expected for Friday. The daytime high could be 28. That's nearly 10 degrees higher compared to what we saw on Thursday. And it could hit the 30-degree mark on Friday in Seoul. Meanwhile, we are watching a disturbance. It's a tropical depression now. It could intensify to a named storm soon, and it could make landfall in Mindanao, which is very susceptible to disasters. We might see heavy rainfall and strong winds due to the tropical storm over Mindanao for the next couple of days or so. Temperatures are going to be still on the hot side in Stockholm and Warsaw on the last day of the business week. That's it for me. Have a nice day.
The United States House of Representatives launches public hearings as part of its impeachment investigation of President Donald Trump. Iraqi police clash with anti-government demonstrators in central Baghdad. Riot police were seen firing tear gas toward protesters, injuring several people. In Hong Kong, police increase security around the city and its universities following clashes between police and anti-government protesters. And Italian officials say water levels in Venice are going down on Wednesday after the second highest tide ever recorded flooded the city and many historic buildings.
Israel has called up thousands of reservists after 4 days of violence left at least 90 people dead in Gaza and 7 in Israel. Reports suggest the Israeli military is considering a ground invasion of Gaza. Israeli political leaders have appealed for calm following a wave of street violence between Arab and Jewish communities. Israel's president has described the clashes as senseless civil war. India's surge in coronavirus cases continues, being blamed partially on a new variant of COVID-19. The variant's now been seen in 40 other countries. And research seen by the BBC suggests that China has imprisoned several hundred imams in a crackdown in the mainly Muslim region of Xinjiang over the past few years. As many as 18 may have died in custody.